Yo, what is good, YouTube? Krishan checking back in with another video. So on the first update of the day, we have more updates of Nick Walker ahead of this year's Olympia. Nick is looking massive right now, and I'm very surprised to see Nick hit this execution of the side tricep. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for him, but he's able to slightly pull it off just because of the crazy ab separation. And I believe Nick Walker is somewhat the freak of our generation. I think the proper term would be mass monster, but in the 90s we had Nasser and Marcus Rule. You guys know in the early 2000s, we had Ronnie versus Jay. Throughout the teens, we had Big Ramy, who is still competing today and is still a mass monster, as well as Rolly Winkler. But Nick Walker is somewhat the biggest mass monster of our generation, and he has a very bright future. I'm excited to see him on this year's Olympia stage. Now, switching over to William Bonac, is William Bonac going to be able to pass over Nick Walker this year? These are the most recent updates of him. And as we know, it was a very controversial second placing at this year's Arnold Classic. Pretty much the entire bodybuilding world had Bonac winning that show, except for the judges. Now, Bonac did put out a full posing video. And do you guys think we're going to see an all-time best William Bonac at this year's Olympia? Coming out of the Arnold Classic, the judges told him he needed to fix the issues with his midsection and also the gyno. William has no gyno, but I think just with him getting a little bit older, it seems like he's having a little bit trouble controlling his midsection. Now, as long as it's controlled, the midsection is fine. But as you guys can see a little bit in between poses, William does lose control. But going into this year's Olympia right now, I have William Bonac versus Hadi Choopan fighting it out for their third place at this year's Olympia. I think William is going to look bigger than Hadi because they're about the same size. William is a little bit heavier, but also has that crazy 3D look. But as we know, William does not have the best ab structure or midsection, and Hadi probably has the best in the entire lineup. So it's kind of back and forth about those two. But as we've seen with Phil Heath, you can be perfect everywhere else, but if the midsection isn't in check. And switching over to Samson Dauda, these are the most recent updates from him. Samson is looking great right now. He has made a lot of improvements, but I still wish he had a little bit more cap on his shoulders. And as you guys can see, the arm to our right, which is Samson's left arm, seems like he has a little bit of atrophy there. I believe he had a shoulder injury in the past. But out of all the Olympia debuts being made this year between Andrew Jack, Michael Krizo, Rafa Brandao, Samson Dauda, I'm pretty sure most people have their money on Samson or Andrew going into this year's Olympia. Very high expectations for both of those guys. Now, switching over to James Hollingshead, these are recent updates from him. Now, James did say after this year's Olympia, he probably is going to take the whole 2023 season off. But I'm not exactly sure why James wants to take a year off. To me personally, he just had the best showing of his career at the Tsunami Pro. Also had a great showing at the Arnold UK in a very competitive lineup. But whatever James decides to do, it may be just a mental break, but hopefully he comes back to the stage. Now, switching over to Behrooz Tabani, these are recent updates from him ahead of the Romania Pro. And you guys let me know in the comment section below right now. Are you leaning more towards Brett Wilkin or more towards Behrooz Tabani going into this show? Behrooz does look great right here. I think he will look a bit better on stage. I think Brett may be slightly bigger than him, but Behrooz may bring more detail. Now, switching over to Quinton Eriya, I caught these updates as I was making this video. Quinton is sitting at 300 plus pounds, still holding a great shape. This front double bicep honestly just looks cartoonish. And with the rise of these more aesthetic physiques like Quinton, Rafa, Samson, Andrew Jack, do you guys think in the coming years we could see the mass monster era sort of be pushed out for these more aesthetic physiques? Now, switching over to Tonio Burton, the winner of this year's Legion Sports Fest. And I don't think a lot of people have this guy on their radar going into this year's Olympia. I'm pretty sure he gave up at least 15 to 20 pounds to Justin Rodriguez at the Legion Sports Fest. But Tonio just has this crazy 3D look. He looked the same size, maybe even bigger than Justin in some shots. Actually was beating him in the back poses, and Justin has one of the best backs in the sport. Now, I'm not saying Tonio is going to be top 6, but I do think he's going to place higher than a lot of us think. Once again, he has that Dexter Jackson factor. You know, he's a shorter guy, but has that crazy roundness, crazy symmetry. And I think he can be dangerous in a lineup. I'm excited to see him at this year's Olympia. And hopefully he can shake some things up, you know, maybe between that 10 to 15 range. Now, switching over to Theo Leguerrier, these are the most recent updates of him ahead of this weekend's Europa Pro. And I've already gave Theo my early pick as the winner for this show. Theo has had 2 second place placings this season, placing second to Hassan in Puerto Rico, and also placing second to Moshe Bun in Toronto. But I think he's going to get a pro win this year to head to the Olympia. And this guy's been coming up fast, man. With all of the higher level guys not really competing, Theo was really able to make a name for himself this season. Now, switching over to Classic Physique, we have recent updates from Ramon Dino, and he is with Chris Aceto at the moment. Now, Ramon is looking great ahead of this year's Olympia, as I've said before, I have Ramon as a lock for their top 3. And I'm also hoping that Ramon will be able to push Terrence Ruffin. But I don't think people realize how many improvements this guy has made in just a year. If I'm not mistaken, he made his pro debut last year in Europa, where he took second to Fabian Mayr. And now on paper, he is currently the 3rd best classic physique athlete in the world by placing over Breon Ainsley at this year's Arnold Classic. Now speaking of Fabian Mayr, these are recent updates from him, and I am very excited to see this guy on stage. When Fabian hits the front double or the front leg spread, honestly looks like he can be competitive with open guys. He's so massive in those shots. Have no idea how some of these guys fit into the weight cap. And also Fabian comes in crazy condition, has a very good back. I think he's going to do well this year. Now switching over to Dancovea Anderson, these are updates of him 4 days out of the Texas State Pro. Looking incredible right now. This guy's arm to waist ratio is just insane. I think he has a very bright future. He's probably going to qualify for this year's Olympia, and I could very well see him as high as top 10. We also have another update for him at 3 days out. Seems like he's going to come in pretty good. A lot of people feel like he got overlooked at this year's New York Pro. I felt like he needed a little bit more leg size and also better conditioning. And honestly, just since the New York Pro, it seems like he's improved on both of those aspects. Now switching over to 212, we have a recent update from Kamal Elgargni. And even at 51 years old, however old Kamal is at this point, he's looking incredible, and I think he's going to bring his best this year. We're still not sure if Sean Clarita is going to go to open. I'm pretty sure he's going to stay in 212, though. He's a lot more competitive there. But I do have Kamal Elgargni fighting it out for this year's title. And if Sean Clarita goes to open, Kamal would be my favorite. After that, it gets pretty rough. We have Keon Pearson, Ole Krivy, Kara Bajo, Pin Young Long. 212 is also going to be very competitive. And ending this video here with the archive of the day, you guys let me know in the comment section below which legendary bodybuilder is this. As always, I hope you guys did indeed enjoy this video. If you haven't done so already, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm Krishan from Go Fitness, and that's it. I'm out.